Welcome to week 5 of your relationship goals group. This week, we're talking about parenting. Here's what every parent knows. Parenting is incredibly challenging. It's challenging when your kids are first born. It's challenging when they get into the toddler years. It's challenging when they get into the middle school years. And it's challenging when they get into the high school years. And, challenging is breaking because we realize really quickly that absolutely none of us are parenting experts. And so I just want you to know that no matter how you feel like you're doing as a parent, you need God's grace, and God's grace is available to you. I also know that some of you in the group, you're not really a parent at this point in your life, and maybe you've been a parent for a long time and that part of your life is kind of over. Now you're just enjoying your adult children, or maybe you just are a married person who doesn't have kids, or possibly you're a single person. So we just want to acknowledge that this week, what's great about the sermon is that it's just not about parenting, it's also about making disciples. And so what happens oftentimes in our lives is we tend to think about life in compartments. And what I mean by that is we think about our lives just kind of like, I have my financial life, I have my job life, I have my work friends, I have my close friends, I have my hobbies, I have my marriage, I have my family. And what happens is we kind of look at our life in all these different compartments, which is pretty normal and natural. But what ends up happening is that when we look at life in a compartmentalized way, it's very easy for those different compartments to get disconnected from the purpose that God has given us. And so my whole premise on Sunday morning was simply this, is that you need to parent with purpose. And so when you think about what purpose has God given to every follower of Jesus, and we learned this from Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20. I'll read it for us. Jesus came and told his disciples, "I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age." So the big idea on Sunday morning was that the purpose of parenting is to make disciples of Jesus. Just like our purpose as followers of Jesus is to make disciples, that's also our purpose as parents. Let me put it another way. God has put children in your life in order for you to help them become a follower of Jesus. And when we connect our parenting to that purpose, we can really begin to understand what our role is and why God has gifted us with kids during this season. And so we talked about 4 principles that we need to kind of apply to make disciples. And the great thing is if you don't have children, you can apply these to any arena of disciple making. And if you do have kids, you need to think about these in terms of your own parenting. And the principles were simply this. The first is Jesus says all authority is his, meaning that every disciple needs to know that they're not the center of the universe. And as parents, we need to help our kids know that life's not all about them. They're not in charge. Jesus is, and that life doesn't really work the way that God intended it to work until we come to grips with the fact that life's not about us or for us. It's about Jesus, and he's in charge. And then the second thing we talked about is parents are supposed to be teachers for their children. Jesus says, teach these new disciples everything I've commanded. And I know our first reaction to that is, well, I don't know how to teach everything Jesus commanded. And maybe you're like, I don't even know everything Jesus commanded. And I want you to know that's okay. That's okay. I don't think I could sit down right now and make a list of every command that Jesus said. But here's what I do know. You do know some of the things that Jesus commanded. You know that Jesus said things like, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You know that Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. You know that Jesus said, love your enemies. And you know Jesus talked about generosity and prayer and forgiveness. And so here's the reality. You don't need to be a Bible scholar to teach your kid spiritual truth. You just need to be willing to do it. And then the third principle we talked about is not only that we need to be teachers, but we also need to remember who's with us. Jesus said, I'm going to be with you to the end of the age. So here's what every parent needs to remember. When you think about your parenting in terms of discipling your own children, every time you engage in that, Jesus is present. And it's His power and it's His work that's going to transform your child. I want to just tell you something that's really important. You nor I has the power to change our children. God is the one who transforms. And so remember, parents, if you make the goal of your parenting, the purpose of your parenting, to help your children follow Jesus, Jesus says, I'm going to be with you right in the muck, the mire, the difficulty, the confusion, the hard days, the good days, the glorious days, and the valleys. He said, I'm going to be with you in that. And then finally we said, if you want to make disciples, you have to be a disciple. We have to be authentic followers of Jesus ourselves. Here's the thing about kids. They can smell a phony from a mile away. They just know who really loves them, who really cares for them. They know what's real. And here's the thing. Our kids know whether or not our lives belong to Jesus. They know if we're trying to follow Jesus. Our kids already know we're not perfect. But what they're looking for, the question they're asking is, do mom and dad, do they really love the Lord? Or are they just giving lip service to faith? Behind closed doors and when no one else is around, are they the real thing? And again, not perfect, but are they the real thing? People trying to follow Jesus. I just want to encourage you, authenticity is a critical part of making disciples. So now you're going to have a discussion, and I would say maybe you're in a group that there's not a lot of parents in the group. Feel free to make your whole discussion not about parenting, but about disciple making. And just thinking through those kind of 4 things so that you can still have a discussion if your group isn't made up of parents. But for those who are, talk together about how you can commit to being a disciple maker of the children that God has given you. Have an awesome meeting.